Good day, colleagues, and welcome to Youth's Voice for the Future of Media and Information Literacy in Asia and the Pacific. And to welcome our moderator, let's welcome Sir Marco Polo.
Thank you, Fernando, and the tech team behind our event. A pleasant afternoon to all of you, dear friends, colleagues from Asia and the Pacific. AMIC, or the Asian Media Information and Communication Center, is pleased to bring this event to you today. Supported by UNESCO national offices and international offices in Jakarta, New Delhi, Beijing, and even in other areas, we are very much pleased to be bringing in youth leaders and colleagues from Asia and the Pacific region to this forum event. We are very happy that you're able to make it, of course, despite the challenges and difficulties. In fact, here in the Philippines, just a breaking news, our government has declared that the whole island of Luzon, where I am at, is under a state of calamity. As you know, the country is visited by no less than 20 typhoons in a year. And I hope that despite the challenging situation, you are all safe wherever you are. And let's begin in our event for today. Our event today is being held over the platform Hop-In. Okay, in this platform, you can chat and share your insights and ideas with respect to our discussion. As a starter, you can probably share your name and your location in the chat box so we know who you are and where you're coming from. Also, please note that the session in the plenary and even in the discussion groups or in the breakouts will be recorded. So another thing is that we have a Flipgrid account that we sent to you for our participants. It is open until November 30. If you would like to share your own voice, your own ideas and videos about media and information literacy. Before we officially start the main program, as I introduce the next set of speakers and presenters, I invite you first to a moment of silence as we try to breathe in and breathe out and be present to what's going on. Okay? So inhale together, exhale together. One more time, inhale together and exhale together. Okay. So, without further ado, in order for us to give an overview of our event today and to also welcome us all officially, please welcome from the UNESCO Jakarta office, our good friend and colleague, Dr. Ming Kuok Lim. Dr. Ming, a pleasant afternoon to you.
Thank you very much, Marco. Good day to everyone, and thank you very much for joining us on this online event, Youth Voices, Future of Media and Information Literacy in Asia and the Pacific, in collaboration with AMIC. I am Ming Kuok Lim, and I am the Advisor for Communication and Information for UNESCO's office based in Jakarta. We are joined here today by various UNESCO offices around the region. For UNESCO, media and information literacy is an essential skill in the 21st century, especially in this digital age where the rise of disinformation and misinformation is, to put it in another way, very time consuming for all of us. So how can we access, search, critically assess, use, contribute content wisely on this day and age, whether it is offline or online? How can we do all of this is something that we are asking. And we hope that the consultation today, we will be able to hear from the youth, what role youth can play, and what are your hopes and wishes in order to make media information literacy more accessible and more available. Youth plays an important part, and this is true when we are talking with all our stakeholders. And in this regard, we consider schools, academic institutions, Ministry of Education, the media organizations, libraries, association, various grassroots organizations, the legislators, policymakers, and the United Nations family of agencies as all important stakeholders in this process. Therefore, we hope that through this consultation online today, we will be able to hear from you, your suggestions and your ideas for the draft plan of action that we are proposing on youth engagement to enhance media information literacy in Asia and the Pacific, with the objectives of improving how we can better integrate MIL into our education and also to expand MIL advocates throughout the region. So with that, I wish you a good meeting today, and I look forward to hearing from our speakers as well. Thank you very much. Back to you, Marco.
Thank you, Dr. Ming, for welcoming all of us and stating the importance and the purpose of our activity this afternoon. Indeed, AMIC is very fortunate to be given the opportunity to convene the young people from different parts of the region for our event today. So with that, we go to our first plenary session. In our program this afternoon, there are two main events. First is the plenary, wherein we have three speakers, distinguished speakers who will share their best practices and experiences with respect to media and information literacy in their own countries. This will be followed by an open forum, and then we go into the breakout sessions. I will explain the mechanics for the breakouts later, and I hope that everyone will stick around to participate in that important part of our event. So allow me now to introduce our plenary speakers. We have three of them. These people have devoted their careers and lives towards the purpose of education and at the same time, particularly on media and information literacy. I will give you the introductions of the three speakers, and then it will be followed by their presentations. At the end of the last presenter, we will open the floor for the open forum. Our first speaker is a lecturer at the School of Communication at the Atmajaya Catholic University of Indonesia. Her research and pedagogical interests include new media, journalism, and gender studies. Prior to being an academician, she was a journalist working for Compass Gramedia, during which she won the highly prestigious National Journalism Award called the Anugrah Adiwarta. Andina is also an awardee of the Herb Faith PhD scholarship from Monash University in Australia. This is where she will be working on her project about identity and social media. Our second speaker is from the Philippines. Marlon Nombrado is the co-founder of the Out of the Box Media Literacy Initiative. Marlon works for this nonprofit organization that advocates for media literacy in the Philippines. He designs learning tools, campaigns, and facilitates workshops for teachers and students on how to critically and responsibly engage with all sorts of media. He's also a high school teacher, a graphic artist, and he's studying for his master's degree at the University of the Philippines. Marlon also participated in the International Visitors Leadership Program of the United States Department last year on media literacy for education. That is our second speaker, Marlon Nombrado. Finally, our third speaker is Ms. Arulselvi Azagiri from India. She is the Global Alliance for the Promotion of Media and Information Literacy Youth Ambassador for Asia. Arul is a PhD research scholar at the Department of Media Sciences at Anna University in Chennai, India. As a youth ambassador for GAPMIL, she has also been working on training people on fact-checking through the Fakshala, an India media literacy network, which she also founded or co-founded, including the Inc. Educational Research Trust. Her research is in the field of media and social inclusion. After finding her interest towards MIL and the Sustainable Development Goals, Arul started to explore the new dimensions in managing the needed of the factor of information overload. For her, achieving social inclusion is possible only when the marginalized sectors of society become informed and become empowered and are able to participate in our societal functions. She is an advocate of social inclusion, and digital empowerment of every citizen. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to introduce our three speakers. And our first speaker for this afternoon, please give a warm welcome to Ms. Andina Dian Dwi Fatma from Indonesia. Good afternoon, Andina.
Good afternoon, Marco and everybody. Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Andina Dwi Fatma, and I'm a lecturer at the School of Communication at Atmajaya Catholic University, Indonesia. I feel honored being here to be able to share some ideas and practices from my country related to the media and information literacy program in Asia and the Pacific. So thank you for the opportunity. Allow me to share my screen. Yeah, can anyone see my screen? Everyone can see my screen? Okay, thank you. This is called Media Literacy Ideas, Learning from Indonesia. In Indonesia, just like the rest of the world, we are also facing an increasing polarization. People fit other people into categories and they refuse to talk to each other. The picture on the left is Mr. Prabowo. Now he is our Ministry of Defense and our President Jokowi. This is taken when they were face to face for the presidential election back in 2019. The other picture is Jakarta Governor Anies Baswedan, who some might say right now is shaping his way for the next election. These leaders, they share the same strategy to gather support. They use populist ideas like Islam versus anti-Islam, pro-Chinese versus anti-Chinese. Prabowo used to say that Jokowi is not a fan of Muslim people and Jokowi is going to favor the Chinese, knowing that there is a tension between Chinese ethnic and other ethnics in Indonesia. And this kind of strategy is still being utilized now, thanks to our massive uses of social media long after the election is over. If you support Anies, then you are pro Islam. If you criticize Islamic clerks, then you are pro Jokowi. Let me give you a further illustration about that. This is the picture of Rizik Shihab. He is the leader of a rather radical fundamentalist Islamic organization called Islamic Front Defenders or FPI. Rizik and his supporters have been marching and rallying with thousands of people on the street, including organizing his daughter's wedding in the times of COVID. Now, imagine a lesser donor of wedding in the times of COVID. Are going to judge you as some kind of Islam hater or, or cleric hater, Islam cleric hater. Now, some might argue that we've been polarized long before the internet, but the social media all algorithms do make it worse. We are living in our own echo chamber and filter bubble. The echo chamber effect occurs when social media users only connect and interact with other users who have similar values and views. It's like they are in a room that kept reflecting the same sound. This is possible with various features on social media. For example, the button mute on Twitter to exclude content that containing certain keywords or certain users who we follow, but we don't wanna see their tweets appear in our timeline. Now, imagine let's say Donald Trump supporter in the last U.S. presidential election. He used the mute feature for keywords related to Biden. He also unfollows people who vote for Biden. As a result, his timeline will be full of support for Trump. He feels that Trump is superior and better than Biden, even though it is nothing more than an echo chamber effect made possibly by his own decisions. Another concept similar to the echo chamber effect is the filter bubble, a metaphor for how social media platforms work. Facebook and Google, for example, present information to users based on data entered by the user himself, such as search history, past click behavior, or location. As a result, the user is like living in a bubble filled with things that she agrees with and believes in. The impact of this bubble was enormous. Suppose you are a fan of conspiracy theories. From the data you enter into search engines, the articles you read, and the photos you click, Facebook and Google will bombard you with similar content that speaks to the truth of conspiracy theories. Once you click on a word like COVID conspiracy on YouTube, for example, you will continue to receive similar video recommendations. You also become increasingly convinced that COVID-19 is actually just a trick by the global elite. So here are some ideas. First, get out of your comfortable echo chamber. Go follow accounts that you are not agree with. Try to understand their way of thinking and expand your horizons. Second, recognize your potentiality for confirmation bias. Your views are influenced by news and information recommended by some sophisticated algorithms, which brings me to my third ideas: reduce your social media screen time. Go out, read books, talk to real people. Social media is not designed for you to have healthy discussions about things that matter, at least for now. So that's it. Here's my contacts. There's my email and my Twitter account. I would love to be in touch with everyone who shares the same interest. Thank you. And now it's time for the second speaker. Please welcome Marlon Nombrado. Marlon, the floor is yours.
Hi, thank you very much, Andina. I'm very sure one thing I took away from your presentation is we Filipinos and Indonesians do not only share same physical and facial features, even our politics and our technological conditions are very much similar. I'm sure our youth participants from the Philippines can very much relate from your presentation. So, same with Andina, I'm very, very happy to be here with everyone this afternoon. So I am Marlon Nombrado, one of the co-founders of OOTV, or Out of the Box Media Literacy Initiative. We are a nonprofit organization in the Philippines that wishes to mainstream media literacy practices in the country. Since 2014, for 6 years now, we've been reaching out to thousands of learners and educators across the country by providing them with tools to use and apply media literacy in their own contexts. How exactly do we do this? Through workshops, competitions, trainings, and learning resources that they can use in classrooms, and of course, in our present context today, in distance learning as well. And of course, if there are big issues in the country, such as the shutdown of ABS-CBN network, one of the biggest media companies in the country, we're very much vocal about these issues as well. And we also set up special fora and exhibit. So we're very fortunate that for 6 years now, we've been able to keep our advocacy afloat. That is by having all of these partners to support us, whether by funding us or by helping us implement them. So we have worked with different schools, universities, civil society groups, and media organizations as well. So for the time given me, what I would like to share with you is our own conceptualization of media literacy. For OOTB, when we use the term media literacy, we refer to three things, three practices to be specific. This is the practice of critical interrogation of media, the practice of alternative media production, and the practice of digital citizenship. Each of these practices have a specific way of how we engage with media by asking questions and finding out what is hidden behind media texts and media processes, by producing media content using tools and resources, and by participating in the digital media space. These three are distinct, yet they are overlapping. They involve a wide range of skills, knowledge, values, and attitudes. We prefer to use the term practices because we think that when we practice media literacy, it is definitely way more than skills. It involves knowledge, it involves our values, and our ability to commit to democracy. Our vision for OOTB is to cultivate these skills, these practices, to become collective habits and to become norms. And for what purpose? We think media literacy, media and information literacy is a way for us to achieve better media, better films, better TV shows, better practices in journalism, better social media platforms, also better schools, a better integration of critical thinking and civic education in our schools and universities, and of course, in the broadest sense, better government that responds to the grievances and the needs of its population. This is based on our own media literacy theory of change, which, if you are interested to learn more about, you can definitely go to our website for that, ootbmedialiteracy.org. This same theory of change is also guiding us in the different projects and activities that we've been doing for the past 6 years. One of which is the Spoof Ads Design Workshop and Competition for high school students, which challenges students to take existing advertisements and reconstruct them to deliver a more politically aware and alternative message. Other activities that we've been doing include Peliculab Film Fellowship, which wherein high school students pitched their own human rights based short films. We also have our own voters education programs in 2016 and 2019 that taught students how to critically analyze political advertisements and how technology and social media platforms are used by politicians. And of course, you also see here all of the campaigns that we've done in support of ABS-CBN in their pursuit of their franchise renewal in the last May. And of course, our most recent project during the COVID-19 pandemic is the EWAS Fake Remote Learning Resources that hopes to support teachers and students across the Philippines as we grapple with the distance learning setup in education, for them to be able to learn about the skills, the knowledge, and the values that are needed in order to battle the infodemic that we are facing today. In behalf of my co-founders, Sarah and Darlene, and the rest of our team of volunteers and advocates, thank you very much. We're looking forward to working with all of you. If you would like to work with us, do not hesitate to reach us through our socials or email us at info@ootbmedialiteracy.org. That's it for my presentation, and I guess we can now head on over to our third speaker, Arul.
Hi. I welcome you all to this wonderful session. Good morning, everyone. And now I'm going to give you an introduction on MIL and how we are working on fact checking. And this is my mail ID. You can contact me at any time. And we all know information is our basic human rights. It's a freedom of expression, and information empowers citizens, but it overloads, it can cripple. We have different types of sources for getting information. We have newspapers, television, radio, websites, and social media, and family conversations. And what's the need for MIL in getting information and seeking information? Because information is a fundamental human right. UNESCO, everyone declared in MIL is a fundamental human right now. In this digital world, information is a basic human right, and it promotes social inclusion. And we have 5 laws of media and information literacy. We all want to get information for civic engagement and for sustainable development, and every citizen has equal right. There is no gender bias in getting information and expressing it, and information is not necessarily always neutral, independent of bias. It's not necessary, but information should be truth, it transparent, and easily understandable to all citizens. And every individual is able to communicate and aware of what is happening around them. And um, people should know what they need and what why they are seeking information and where it from and what is the source, and um, whether it's having any vested interest, so they can able to implement information in a proper decision making process. And major players in disseminating information is creators, consumers, and distributors. And these are the terms already explained by Morlan. And why social media is prone to misinformation means every social media provide the space for citizen journalism. That can anyone can create information easily. It reaches to the mass audience. One can reach hundreds of people in a minute. So it's very easy to circulate misinformation in social media, and there are different motives for sharing false information, maybe for fun, for entertainment, for political motives, for religious bias. And in country like India with diverse citizens and with different groups of people, there are called caste system, religious, different kinds of motives behind the false information. It really misguides the people, and it ends in death, even in death. And people frequently fall for misinformation. These are the few reasons for falling on misinformation, like confirmation bias. People already have some schema in their mind. It should be really true. If some celebrities said, it will be true. And there are some practices believing if hundreds of people like a video, and we tends to like the video, whether it has content needed for us or not, whether it's needed for the society, whether it contributes for development, we should not worry about the things behind the message behind the video. If our friend like the video, we should like the video, whether we criticize the content or not, whether we analyze the motive behind the video, we actually tends to like the video. uh, why most people frequently circulate misinformation means they don't have time to check the sources of information, like when it published, what's the date for the publication, whether it comes from authoritative sources, whether it have any personal beliefs, vested interest. If it comes on the Facebook with a celebrity photo or a leader photo, without unknowingly, everyone tends to circulate it. In this pandemic situation, these are the crisis faces in India. People tend to drink sanitizers because of false information. It leads them to even very critical situation, life threat. Everything happens behind the unknowing circulation of misinformation. So we should aware what information we need, what information we circulate, what information we share with our friends. That should be very, very careful. And, and these are the things already shared with Marlon and Antina. They also, Antina should elaborately brief on echo chamber and filter bubble. And there are some other competitors related to MIL, which is netiquette. There is a certain set of rules to follow in sharing and information in online. And it's really MIL should be included in curriculums in primary, secondary, and university level of education in developing countries with the diverse citizens with the different backgrounds. We should respect the difference, and we should promote everyone to include in MIL. And we should develop critical thinking. That's a main component of MIL. We should able to analyze information. We should compare with the different sources. We should not go by the single search engine. We should use different search engines. Like instead of Google, you can use an image search for Anders and DuckDuckGo. There are different search engines used for different sources of information. It will help to improve your information quality. And sometimes we see things a lot differently from others when staring at. You can see this image. Everyone sees something. Someone sees the eyes. Someone sees the shape. Someone sees just a face. It depends upon the person how they respond to the situation. So we should very careful in seeking the information and observing and respond to the situation. And be an independent thinker. That is very, very essential to be an MIL literate. And I request everyone to develop basic information hygiene practices. Before go by the information, please check for the source and verify it the authenticated source, and check with fact checkers and analyze the evidence. They quoted any documents which is like it's from UN or World Bank or UNESCO, or it's from the authorized registered companies, and do not share without a verification. That's a must. and it's please check it's a nice source, a nice authoritative named independent corroborated evidence. And before seeking the information, please ask this question: or what is the purpose of this information? How is this produced? Who created it? And who are the intended audience? And what's the main message? And who benefits? And what do they gain? And what are the information needs? And where I can identify the needs? And what are the different sources regarding this information? And where you are going to reuse or reproduce the content. And I request everyone to be self-aware, liberated, and responsible global citizen, and to contribute your participation in decision-making process and for sustainable development. Thank you. I hand over the session to Mr. Marco.
And thank you very much, my dear colleagues, Andina, Marlon, and Arul, for sharing your very thought-provoking and very much informative presentations this afternoon. For our friends and colleagues in Hop In, now is the time to start keying in your questions. Kindly state your name and your country as you send in your questions via the chat box. But before we entertain those questions, let me just give a brief overview of what has been discussed by our three distinguished presenters. For Andina, she shared on the ideas on how to deal with information disorder in the infodemic. So let's get out of our echo chambers, recognize confirmation bias, and also reduce our social media use, which I think is very challenging nowadays because everyone is at a work from home or work from away arrangement, and also for the fact that the Philippines, India, and Indonesia are among the top social media users in the world. And I think the young people, many of those who are in this event today, are also heavy social media users. But it's also a good time to also strike a balance and try to get away from all the digital spaces that we have and try to spend more time with family and friends and loved ones in a safe, socially distant way and observing health protocols. For Marlon, he shared the critical pathways in which their group conducts their media and information literacy advocacies. So he talked about alternative media production, critical interrogation of the media text, and digital citizenship. What I like about Marlon's group is that they have a lot of events that really engage the young people. One of the things they do is the advertising deconstruction. It's a very popular inter-school event in the Philippines, as many schools and students send entries and try to deconstruct popular commercials that are aired in the Philippines. And for Arul, she really gave a very extensive overview on our rights as citizens and our ability to process information very carefully and our ability to fight disinformation. So, of course, she ended by sharing advice on info hygiene. No? So check, verify, analyze, and of course, do not share things that are not verified. So it's like saying that think before you share. Okay. So while waiting for some of the questions to be shared here, so I'd like to ask a first question to our presenters today. Okay, so how would you assess the state of media and information literacy in your own country? Okay, so let's start with Andina.
Thank you, Marco, for the questions. Uh, I would like to answer that with a good news. In terms of community actions in the grassroots level, I think our country is very much blessed with a good-hearted people, with a well intention, where they form numerous, civil organizations which focus on the media literacy program. One of them is formed by the academia and activists on media literacy, is called JAPELIDI, Jaringan Pegiat Literasi Digital. In English, it will be Network of Digital Literacy Activists, and they are very much helpful in helping the community to understand how to sort information, especially in the times needed like this. So we are very good in the grassroots level. While as for the government, I think uh, they can do more actually, and I really hope that media literacy can, be inserted into the national curriculum or put into more broad programs for the whole country. Yeah.
Thank you, Andina. Let's have Marlon.
Well, as for the Philippines, I'd say the state of MIL in the Philippines is actually quite vibrant. I can say this because of, well, number one, since 2016, we have already the MIL subject, the Media and Information Literacy subject, inserted in our curriculum. So this is required to be taken by all high school students, at least one subject in 1 year. Although there are still a lot of things that we can improve on when it comes to that, when it comes to further developing the curriculum and being able to actually apply it, adapt it across the K to 12. Other than the education side of things, we have also seen how civil society organizations have really um, developed different programs when it comes to promoting media literacy, since we all know how Philippines is also at the center of this whole disinformation problem since 2016. So since then, fake news has become a buzzword. So I can assume that a lot of Filipinos are knowledgeable about this concept of fake news. But when it comes to combating them and actually defeating fake news, we're really still far behind. So there are still a lot of things that we can work on, but at least when it comes to the participation of civil society organizations, educational institutions, we're very much in it.
Thank you, Marlon. And how about you, Arul?
In for the Indians, we are mostly concentrating on faculty development programs and TOT programs for improving MIL skills, so we can reach the grassroots level. And the government working on the part of promoting digital literacy in rural areas by connecting the people with optical fibers networks and all. First, we improve the infrastructure, and we are ensuring the access to technology from the grassroots is ensured. Everyone has accessing the technology, and then we are giving literacy how they are accessing with this technology, how children are using the device, how women are handling the device, and how youths and different groups of peoples are handling the device and technology, digital platform. And the part of education, we are improving school teachers, and in this COVID-19 pandemic, everyone are moving to digital education. Everyone are through online platforms. Very like first grade children are handling online. So we are improving the school teachers through TOT programs, how children will use the digital platforms. So we are trying to build MIL from the grassroots level and from the children, primary education children. Yeah.
Thank you, Arul, for your response.
Thank you.
We have a lot of questions, and I'm trying to combine some of the questions sent in by our participants. I'd like to acknowledge the questions from Maria of Indonesia, Jean from Malaysia, Felicia from Jakarta, RB from the Philippines, and Prinyaka from India. I try to put together their questions and then so that I'll try to answer it collectively. Their question basically centers around today's generation are heavy users of social media. And because of that, being vulnerable to disinformation and misinformation is higher. So the question is, by your experience, what's the best way in which people can avoid being victimized by misinformation and malinformation? I'll start with you, Arul, first this time. Go ahead.
Yes, can we repeat the question again?
Okay. The youth today are heavy social media users. How can they avoid being victims to misinformation and disinformation? By your experience.
In my experience, you must develop to check the sources and the date of publication. If this video came, it will develop from for example, there is a video regarding child kidnapping. It actually a awareness video done by a NGO, but it miscirculated. The one part of the video was edited, and it's like showing people from northern part of India are kidnapping children in southern part of India. So people tends to beat North Indians who are migrant workers in southern part of India. So likewise, part of video was edited, and go for reverse image search, go for the video search before tends to believing the video, because it's because the impact of the circulating media and misinformation is really uh, threat to life. That's very danger. So before circulating or liking the video or sharing the video, please go for image search, source search, and date of publication, and whether it is authenticated or not. Fact checking is very, very important before circulating the misinformation. Please develop your, uh, again, I'm stressing information hygiene practice. That's the must that can control misinformation circulation. Yes.
Thank you, Arul. I think that's something that our participants learned today from your presentation. How about Marlon? Would you like to add anything to that question?
A lot of researchers and scholars have already said so many things about this. And one thing we can say about this information is there are really multiple factors involved, right? From how the social media platforms are designed for us to actually believe these kinds of things, because sharing fake news and believing fake news is sort of incentivized. So the expectation is if you use these social media platforms, you really will be conditioned or programmed to be exposed and believe unverified information. So an easy fix to that, of course, is to leave Facebook, leave these platforms. But of course, this is impossible for many of us, right? Especially if our audience is from Indonesia and India and Philippines, which are really Facebook lovers, right? And all of these social media platforms. So the second best thing is really for us to go against what is expected from us to do whenever we are in these social media platforms. The business model of Facebook is really for us to spend minutes, hours there, right? Because that is the business model, right? So the first thing that we really have to train ourselves to do is to go against that expectation. It's for us to try to spend our time doing other things than just scrolling and refreshing our feed. And other than that, of course, we have to be very conscious about how these social media platforms, again, are designed to um, make our, again, as said earlier, make our echo chambers and our filter bubbles smaller and smaller. So we simply have to expose ourselves to other things and broaden our worldview. That's a good way to go.
Okay. Be open-minded and fact
Exactly.
check and consider possibilities. Thank you, Marlon. Finally, Andina, would you like to add something to that question?
Yes. Well, I think we must be aware that what we consume on social media is not an information that come to us, naturally. It is a result of algorithmic work. Susanna is above have the term surveillance capitalism for that, which is designed in such a way that we use social media as long as possible. Then, have you ever wondered why people are also harsher on social media? Like they curse more easily. They give negative comments. They go easy on the hate speech. They don't go easy on the hate speech. That's because negative comments or negative contents get more engagement. There is a study at MIT, I think, that fake news circulates 7 times faster than the truth on
Yeah.
Twitter. So my advice is use social media sparingly. I agree with Marlon. I myself still use social media. I'm on Twitter, but only occasionally on Facebook. But the point is, I don't quit social media because I got friends and work there. So my advice is use social media sparingly. Look for information directly on the news site. There are many good news site on that. You don't have to, see something on your timeline and then click it. Just go straight to the news site, not from social media, and talk to many people in your daily life. And on social media, don't be provoked to share immediately. Be an observer. You don't have to comment on anything. Thank you.
Thank you, Andina. I'd like to acknowledge the next batch of people who are asking questions. I'm combining them, so in the interest of time, we have Janina from the Philippines and JJ from UPLB in the Philippines, Dieter from Philippine Christian University in the Philippines, Chris from Myanmar, and Carl also from the Philippines. Their question focuses on MIL and education. This one, I'll direct this to Andina and Arul. Um, if is MIL being taught in your schools, and if so, at what level? If not, how young should people start learning MIL? I'm reserving the next question for Marlon. So this set of questions will be for Andina and Arul. Andina, you wanna jump into that?
Okay, Marco and everybody, this is a very good question. I envy Marlon when he said that in the Philippines, media literacy is in the national curriculum, right? We don't have that yet in Indonesia, unfortunately. While in my campus, formally we have no subject called media literacy, but we do put media literacy materials in every courses that we teach. Like I teach digital journalism and global journalism, introduction to the journalism, media research, and in every class where we use news as examples in our class, we always put the media literacy materials to our students. I always encourage my students to, you know I have this story where one of my students broke down and cry in class because she saw something on Instagram that upsets her. So we end up talking about that. We end up talking about how disruptive social media in your daily life. So I think it's good that we can talk about it in our classroom and in our community development. We focus our community development program in media literacy. So we do media literacy in different groups like housewives in Jakarta, and then in Serpong, in some rural parts in Indonesia. We try to bring the media literacy program as broad as we can, because Indonesia is a very large, consists of different islands. So we try to put our efforts out there so that more people can be reached by this program. Thank you.
Thank you. How about you, Arul?
Yes, in India, before itself, MIL deals with sustainable development goals. We are teaching people in how MIL is a tool to achieve sustainable development goals. Now it's slowly turning into how it affects individual behavior in consuming news. How prosumers will be in the need of MIL to consume reproduce the information. That kind of transformation happening in India from MIL is a development tool to achieve sustainable development goals. Now it will slowly turns into the human rights and how it's important for an individual in seeking information and give its contribution in country's development process and decision making, how an informed citizen should actively participate in the country's development process and societal functions. Likewise, in the curriculum, it's again reframed, restructured, and reshaped in terms of MIL as a development tool and MIL as a human right and MIL as a human behavior. That's
Thank
the
you.
kind of thing happening in India.
Thank you, Arul. I think because of geopolitical situation in your country and even in Indonesia, there are some decentralization in terms of incorporating it in the curriculum. The last question from the participants, I'm summarizing it. It's for Marlon. I'd like to acknowledge Shania from Swiss German University and Reina. Also, from Dorothy and from Joan Margaret from the Philippines and Noval. Their question is, since social media is there and we cannot do away with it, and a lot of people fall prey into disinformation. And a lot of it is also peddled, number one, either by governments themselves, number two, by social media influencers. What tips or techniques can you share on how this can be prevented or avoided? Do you have anything in your out of the box toolbox that you can share to our students and participants on how to deal with such disinformation, especially if it's coming from these kinds of institutions, the government and or influential people?
Okay.
Marlon?
First of all, we have to recognize definitely the difference between misinformation and disinformation, right? So if these false information are coming from government offices, political actors, then these are actually well-funded and orchestrated disinformation campaigns. So it's not just simply ordinary citizens that just made a mistake and then shared an apparently false information. And this is particularly true in our country and in a lot of other countries in our region here in Asia Pacific. So I think a lot of Filipinos are still very much unaware of this reality, how much money is involved in this, who are actually the actors involved in this. During our elections in 2016, we've had a series of investigations. What's this? Initiated by the Philippine Senate. They called in bloggers and influencers and other social media people that were supposedly behind the political disinformation machine of the president. But then after all of these investigations, nothing happened. No, it's as if the case has been closed already. And then come 2019, we had another elections, and the techniques have actually evolved. Now we have influencers who are seemingly legitimate, but then in reality, they're actually paid. So definitely, there must be interventions when it comes to introducing policies. But the problem is, what if the main policymakers are actually the ones who are peddling and supporting these kinds of disinformation campaigns? And then, of course, on the end of tech platforms, there is still so much work to be done. While we recognize the efforts of Facebook when it comes to taking down and tracking fake and illegitimate messages, no, and accounts and taking them down, still there is still so much things to be done. So us in the civil society, and we just have to double our effort when it comes to working with policymakers, working with tech platforms, whether this is in the form of pressuring them, lobbying, in order to pressure them to double their efforts when it comes to solving the tech crisis. Because I think this is the very limitation of media literacy education. We can only do so much when it comes to educating ourselves and making ourselves immune to fake news. But if the tech platforms are not participating or cooperating, and the governments are not cooperating, then there's really going to be this tension in our countries.
Thank you, Marlon. You really raised an important last point there that civil society, the academe, the youth, we need to be vigilant. We need to help to hold to account the tech companies and our governments in order to ensure that they are not enablers of disinformation. So I know there are still some questions coming in, but we need to move on to the next part of our program. But before we close this open forum, I'd just like to remind the participants that we will share the information of our resource persons so that if you need to engage them, you need to ask a question, you need to work with them, you can reach out to them. So in closing, I'd like to ask for a parting statement from all of you as the result of our open forum. And probably just to insert a little point there that because of our discussion this afternoon, how can we, as probably privileged individuals or very much aware of what media and information literacy is, reach out not to three kinds of people. It's found in the Bible: the last, the least, and the lost. So how do we reach out to the last, the least, and the lost among our people in order to promote media and information literacy? So maybe Arul will start, and then we'll have Andina, and then we'll end with Marlon. Arul? Maybe we lost her a bit. Maybe Marlon, you can jump in.
Okay. I've actually mentioned it already a while ago. Let me just reiterate it. We need to recognize the very limitations of media and information literacy when it comes to solving the very big problems, the crisis that we are facing today. So us as advocates and advocates of media and information literacy, we must work towards building bridges with other stakeholders involved, particularly the governments, policymakers, media organizations, and the tech platforms. So one step at a time, one MIL literate citizen at a time.
Okay. Thank you, Marlon. How about Andina?
Yes, well, I think that with all its limitations, the MIL are still very highly important. And I agree with Marlon that we must work together, collaboration between all parties involved. Especially in Indonesia's case, I would very much like it to be included in the national curriculum. And I also want to answer the previous questions, which I forgot to answer, that I would say that ML should be exposed to our kids in the earliest age. So maybe we should start at elementary school at least. Only when we learn to selecting and sorting our news sources, recognizing our own confirmation bias, and to be able to debate safely, will we be able to build a good stand ground for a better and healthier digital public space. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andina. And then finally, Arul?
Yes. I have some network issues.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. And
right.
I think it's very important for partnership and developing a network in MIL. We have to promote digital volunteers in promoting MIL, actually, because we can use social media in a constructive mode to spread MIL. We are already promoting MIL clicks and hashtag against fake news, everything for just developing awareness against misinformation and advocating MIL. But taking into the further steps, we should really develop constructive, active participants of MIL network, and we should develop digital volunteerism to fight against the misinformation. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Arul, for that insight and idea, which I hope everyone will take heed. So with that, dear friends, we're closing the first part. Don't go away. We'll be right back because we will have the important part of our program also, which is the breakouts. This is the exciting part of today's session because you will get to meet face-to-face, virtually, some of your fellow youth leaders from other parts of the region. Okay, so I'll be back in a short while, and then I will announce the mechanics for our breakouts. See you in a bit. Okay, and we're back. That was a very quick break, so I hope you were able to catch your breath after that heart-pounding and heart-stopping session for our open forum. And now we move on to the second main part of our event. And as I said, this will be the breakout sessions. As I mentioned earlier, we are using Hopin as our platform. If you have registered already for the event, then you will be able to participate in our discussions. We call it discussion groups in Hopin. So maybe I'll go to the slide to just give you a brief overview on how we're gonna do this. So in this session, you will be deployed to the different discussion groups. Okay, in each discussion group, there will be a moderator and a documenter. These two people will play a very important role. Of course, the documenter will guide you throughout the process. They will facilitate the discussion, while the documenter will assist you in capturing your ideas that you are sharing. So take note that this session will be good for 40 minutes. No, it's just like doing a class activity. So the process is that once you find your discussion group, it will take a little bit of while, but we'll try to assist you the best way we can. And please be very patient. Once you're inside the discussion room, the moderator will ask all of you, of course, to introduce yourself. The moderator, of course, will introduce himself or herself as well. Try to be brief and precise about what you'd like to say. It could be a fun fact about you, or it could be an important information about your organization. The second question that they will ask is, remember that we shared a draft document that has been prepared by UNESCO and other friends of UNESCO. It's a draft plan of action for youth engagement in policies and strategies related to access to information and media and information literacy. We would like you to give your initial impressions if you have read through the document. If you have not read it very thoroughly, that's all right. There will be another chance for you to give your feedback to that. But the third also important question that you will be asked is that you're going to select one stakeholder group that is part of that document. And we'd like to hear your thoughts as youth leaders on how this stakeholder can better integrate MIL to both the formal and non-formal education sector. You can choose among the following sectors: legislators and policymakers, United Nations agencies, programs and families, and other related agencies, civil society organizations, especially those that focus on the youth, ministries or departments of educations, academic institutions, or media institutions, media organizations, libraries, or what we also call memory institutions. After this session, the moderator will provide a recap. And also, he will ask you if you'd like to nominate yourself or volunteer. One of you in the discussion group will be requested to share the highlights of the discussion of your group. Do not worry, because I have documenters. These are my students assisting you in taking down notes of the highlights of your discussion. We will call you in later at the plenary when we go back here in Hopin in the stage, and you're given 2 minutes to share the highlights of what you talked about in your discussion group. After you have selected your presenter for your group, we will just request for a souvenir photo so that there's documentation of what happened in the discussion group. After that, everyone goes back into the stage in Hopin. While my documenters and those who will present, you will receive a link to enable you to go into another platform so that you can present later. Next, now in the event that there is no moderator in the room, just in case it happens, okay? The group can decide to nominate a moderator. just in case it happens, because we don't know the technology is not 100% reliable. Second, if there's no one documenting, let us know because I will assign a student to be there to assist you, okay? In the unlikely event that this happens. So the time on my watch in Indonesia is 1:10. So you have 40 minutes. You have until 1:50 to do your discussion groups. And we'll start that right now. See you later after 40 minutes. Enjoy the session.
Ten points to detect disinformation. 1. Check the headline. Is it in all caps? Does it use excessive punctuation, like question marks and exclamation marks? 2. Evaluate your emotional reaction. How does it make you feel? Does it make you angry? Scandalized? Deeply sad? 3. Is the news about a cure for a major illness? A future world disaster? A scientific discovery that rewrites a chapter in human history? Probably false. 4. Is it a news article? A social media post? A meme? Long doesn't necessarily mean it's true, but the shorter, the funnier, and the easier to share it is, the more careful you should be. 5. What is the source? Is it from a reputable media outlet or website? 6. When in doubt, do a similarity search. Search for past headlines, check the same information in a reputable outlet, and search for similar images published on other sites. 7. Where do the hyperlinks lead you to? Do they link to other quality sources? 8. Odd domain name. Many dubious websites tend to attach an unusual suffix to its domain name, such as .co. 9. Many pop-ups or banner ads. Beware. Legitimate websites try their best to optimize users' navigation experience without interference. 10. Resort to a fact-checking website. There are many, and use a good one. If you are not sure it's true, just don't share it.
Good evening.
we're back, dear friends and colleagues. Whew. Uh, I'm still catching my breath after attending and viewing the different discussion groups. I know time is of the essence, and we didn't have enough time in most of the groups to be able to really have discussions in the different activities and the different questions that we posed. But don't worry, as I said earlier, this is just the beginning. This is just the start of our conversation and of our collaboration. Okay, so there will be other ways, which I will announce later, on which how we can participate in the MIL advocacies of the UNESCO, of AMIC, and of the other organizations that are collaborating towards this global movement of making our future more MIL literate. So without further ado, we will now proceed to the sharing of some of our participants who have been nominated, selected, or who volunteered in their own groups to share the highlights of their presentations. So I'll just randomly call them first, but since they're one of the first to come in here, I'm calling the one in discussion group number 4. And the one who's going to share that is from the Philippines, is actually also from Gapmil Youth. Please welcome here Dun Oliver Abiera. Hello, Dun. I think you're from Mindanao, I understand.
Yes, I'm from General Santos City. Thank you
Okay,
so much.
so the floor is yours. You
Thank
have
you
2
so
minutes.
much. Yes. So allow me to share our screen. So in this 2 minutes, I will just the main gist of what we have discussed. We chose schools and academic institutions which we focus how the youth serves as the foundation of the society, where what teachers say or what teachers teach to our students is very integral. In some of the countries that have shared, from Sri Lanka to Cambodia to Myanmar, there are different aspects that we suggest that MIL must be integrated in the curriculum and must be implemented. And inquiry-based learning shall be preceded, and Socratic method should be also diversified with this inquiry-based learning, that the libraries are the backbone of MIL, and that it should be integrated also in different schools projects and management at the same time. And we must meet certain demands on how to filter messages and adopt the technology in terms of learning classroom areas and learning classroom environment. And as I said, there are different problems focused on Cambodia, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, and different sides of Asia and Pacific. But the bottom line is, we thought that the global MIL integration is very strong. We have different activities and programs such as this one that really focuses on MIL. But the bottom line is, we need to integrate more of it in the local level and in schools level. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Don Oliver, for sharing that. You know, I grew up reading books and magazines in my mom's school library. So I am a big fan of supporting memory institutions like libraries and museums. And they really have to really be integrated, no, in the process. Thank you for the sharing from your group. And we look forward to more collaborations with you and the other organizations that you actually represent. No? Thank you. The next person to share, I'd like to call on Miss Marymon Reyes. So, Miss Marymon, the floor is yours. You have 2 minutes to share. Hello, Marymon. Marymon, you can unmute.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, go ahead.
Unfortunately, I think I cannot open my camera, but it's okay. I'll be reporting what we have discussed within the short amount of time. So, from our group discussion, what we've perceived to be the most effective way into spreading media information literacy is, of course, in focusing at the grassroots level, wherein we will be focusing from bottom to the top. Since we have existing youth organizations or youth-based organizations as initiated by several communities and several concerned citizens, I believe what we must pursue right now is the more support for them to reach out all corners of communities, of countries, and of other nations, most especially those who do not have the same privilege to gaining access to information and education, be it from formal and informal ways of educating the people. I believe we must utilize the existing organizations since they're already built and formed with their own purposes. And what we need now is to form the common sense of consciousness in becoming responsible. So this includes the marginalized, the less fortunate, and not just those of the privileged. Therefore, we must also now analyze the strengths and weaknesses of all existing civil society organizations and associations. And from that, can we now formulate the better approaches, most especially to those who do not have the same gadgets, the same devices, and the same level of internet connection or stability. And with that, we can now build the common sense of responsibility and consciousness in becoming media information literate people. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Marymon, for sharing. Indeed, one of the key ingredients of our way forward here is to work together instead of working separately in terms of our initiatives, especially to reach the most marginal among our people in our country, in our communities. Indeed, we really have to also localize the context of MIL because the battle is different at the urban centers and in the rural areas. We really have to find different ways and creative strategies on how to optimize the process of reaching the most unreachable members of society. Thank you again for your sharing. The third person to share is from Group 11. I'd like to call on Alessa Alcantara to share the highlights of their group discussion. Alessa, welcome.
Hi everyone. So I'll be discussing our discussion from the group. So it was mostly consisted of groups from mostly in the Philippines, China, and from Malaysia. And our moderator was Miss Linda Garcia. So our general impression was mostly on the different roles here in our own countries. So we talked about how MIL is a certain part of curriculum where it was still new and it was still fresh. So it's something that not everyone really had the privilege to talk about or to really discuss with everyone else in their age frames. So it was really something we would like to push at a young age. It was mentioned earlier by one of the speakers that MAL should be able to start at a young age, as young as elementary school, because it is something that you cannot really learn in one year or 1 month. It has to be something you really develop as time passes. So it being able to proclaimed or be talked about by everyone every single time you have a chance to is really something important to us. So other than that, for our station is also very important. So the idea of it being with the government or people of the media institutes is really important because not everyone is privileged enough to actually learn MIL. So it has to be a basic right for everyone. So being able to show it to everyone is very important. And I believe that's all I could share. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Alessa. That was a quick 2 minutes, of course, of sharing the highlights in your group's discussion. And I'm sure that because of the different ideas you learned from the different participants, it will only enrich our capability and capacity to reach out to the different sectors and groups that we work with respect to MIL advocacy. In the interest of time, I need to call the last person to share. I really apologize. I would have wanted to have a longer discussion, but because we are all over time actually officially, my apologies to everyone. But we'll have the last speaker. I will announce the next steps so that you know how we can further do our engagements here. From Group 3, I'd like to call on Christian Taxiat. Christian, are you around? Please share the highlights of your group's discussion.
Yes, so let me share my screen. Um, okay. So, just to make this quick, our discussion was about the rampant misinformation, especially in the digital age that we are living in the 21st century. And MIL teaches us how to behave as citizens of the internet, and it also tells us how to improve and evaluate the information we get from internet, from social media and from news portals online. So Today, everyone can become a journalist, but not everyone can write factual informations, and not e- yes, not everyone can identify which is true and which is false, which is why media information literacy is important. So people need more reliable sources so that we can provide people a better understanding of what is true. And we also discussed that MIL is an important part of the curriculum, especially here in the Philippines. It is being taught in senior high school, but we have discussed that the earlier that we teach it to students, the better, because it is not just a process, or it is just not a simple course, but a part of life. It's something that you can use every day. It's something that you need to understand so that you can be a better netizen. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you so much, Christian. And indeed, despite the fact that MIL is taught in our schools, there's still a long way to go to really popularize it and to mainstream MIL. And even though we are the envy probably of some countries, the Philippines is still in a test era, especially now that we're in online distance learning. Although there are many ways in which MIL can still be taught and its competencies in a online distance learning environment. So with that, we are closing the sharing of the plenaries. I really apologize that we were not able to hear the voice of everyone else who who were selected. But wait, there's more. There is a way in which you can do that. No? Remember that when you joined this event, we sent to you a link via Flipgrid. No? Maybe Fernando can turn on my slide so I can go over it. In Flipgrid, you're actually given the same time. I think we made it 3 minutes now to share your views on MIL. Upon checking earlier before we started the event, there are about 20 of you young people that have already spoken there. No? We had people from Indonesia, Mongolia, Indonesia, the Philippines, sharing what's going on with respect to MIL in their own countries. So please use your voice, use your capability, share it in Flipgrid, because that is one of the ways in which you can share your voice, your ideas, your perspectives with respect to our MIL discussion. Back first, before that, just go back. One more. Okay, so okay, here. So before we go to the closing part in which we have somebody who will share his closing message, let me also announce that as part of our continuing conversation on MIL and hopefully action as well, there are actually 3 network organizations that have been formed wherein you can participate. For AMIC, we are launching very soon an AMIC Youth Club. So this is open to young people, especially those who are studying communication, media, broadcasting, film, but also those who are interested in all of these media and allied media sectors. And very soon we will send out invitations to the organizations who are here, and hopefully you'll be part of it. Now, for our friends and our youth leaders in the ASEAN region, very recently, an ASEAN MIL Youth Club was formed. So I hope that you will become part of it. No, we will disseminate information. AMIC will help facilitate that on how you can be part of that ASEAN MIL Youth Club. Another MIL organization or a network organization was formed. It's called the ASEAN Youth Alliance Network, or AYAN. So that is another way in which you can participate in the discussion for MIL. So with that, those are some of the things that we can do in terms of continuing our engagement, our cooperation, and collaboration. So we move on to the second to the last part of our program, before I announce the event evaluation thing. To give a closing message, we have with us here the chairman of the Asian Media Information and Communication Center. He is not young, but he is young at heart. And, he was my professor in college. He is very much active, even if he is already a senior citizen. So please welcome the chairman of AMIC, Dr. Crispin Simaslog, for his closing message.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is perhaps with more than a touch of irony that two of my former students, a baby boomer and a Generation Xer, conspired to ask me, a Jurassic, to give the closing remarks to this webinar of young people from Generation Z from various nations. It would be the ultimate challenge indeed to communicate across generations. When I started schooling in grade 1 in the 1940s, long before your grandfathers were born, we were using physical books, meaning books printed on paper between hardcovers, which we used when we had school fights to hit the heads of our classmates. Today, we use handphones to take selfies, to read, to do the arithmetic, or talk to friends outside the classroom during class hours to ask for answers to questions in the exams we are taking. The world indeed has evolved. In my time, media information literacy, or MIL, meant how to read and understand and use information from print media responsibly, mainly newspapers and magazines. The concept of fake news would come decades later. Radio arrived only in the 1920s and television in the 1950s. Satellites, digital technology, computers, smartphones, geo-positioning gadgets, or GPS followed later. As a Jurassic, however, I believe that despite the evolving technology, there are verities that are constant. Truth, balance, fairness, justice, decency, love. The media, whatever the technology used, must honor these verities. So Generation Z, today there are 1.2 billion of you, or 1/6 of the world population of 7.2 billion. You are a massive force now taking over the world. So move over, millennials, Generation Xers, baby boomers, and Jurassics. Generation Z is here. So before I close again, may I thank UNESCO for making this webinar possible with their connections, with their facilities, and with their funding. Thank you again very much. And more power to Generation Z.
Thank you, Dr. Crispin Maslog, for sharing those words of encouragement and challenge, actually, to all of us, whatever generation we may be. Because, I'd like to focus on 3 points as we go to the closing part, no, after what Dr. Maslog said. The first is that MIL, no? MIL is a shared responsibility. Okay? It is the responsibility of all of us. It is the responsibility of governments. It is the responsibility of international agencies, NGOs. So we cannot not work together. We have to be collaborative in all the endeavors. That is M. I, involve yourself in MIL initiatives, and that's what you're doing, and that's why you're here. I'm very glad to hear many of the stories that you have shared in the discussion groups and in Flipgrid on what you are doing. Do not see it as a small initiative. Whatever you're doing contributes to the larger impact of making MIL more mainstream and reaching the last, the least, and the lost. And the third one, L, live out the MIL principles. No, we need to walk the talk. We cannot just be advocates and do other things or do the opposite. We really have to lead by example. We have to make sure that if you're saying that we are against disinformation, we are against trolling, we are against cyberbullying, we are for responsible use of digital media and its resources, we really have to live it out. It has to be shown in our lifestyle. So with that, let me just go to the last slide, Dudes, if you can show the links for the evaluation. There are two evaluation forms that you will accomplish. The first one on your left is the actual evaluation of this event. Okay, so you can take a screenshot, you can scan the QR code or go to the link, and it will bring you to the event evaluation. So you have actually until November 24 to accomplish this event evaluation. Now, second, as you know, your moderators, and again, I cannot not don't have really just I'm just very honored that we have so many friends from AMIC who decided and accepted our invitation to be moderators. They did their best to try to guide you in the discussion of the draft MIL action plan. Now we have an instrument that you can access. We have translated the instrument into this online form, and please feel free to say and share all that you want, those that you were not able to do in the discussion groups through this instrument. Again, you can click on the tiny URL. We'll also make it available in other modalities, but you can also take a screenshot and scan the QR code. And you have until December 1 to submit your ideas, inputs, and suggestions to this draft MIL action plan. And then finally, we would like to announce, as I said, that the Flipgrid is still open until the end of November. So if you would like to share your voice, you'd like to speak up and share your ideas on our forum, please submit your Flipgrid video until November 30. So with that, we are bringing our program to a close. On behalf of AMIC, we would like to thank our friends and partners, especially UNESCO, for supporting this endeavor. We would like to thank our technical support team, Upstream Media. We would like to thank the many organizations, the many partners that came in from the different schools, NGOs, and academic partners, and the NGO organizations who lent their time this afternoon to be part of this event. So with that, dear friends, on behalf of AMIC, the family of AMIC, our moderators, my student volunteers, shout out to you guys. Thank you for being here also today. To Dr. Ming and his team, thank you so much for being with us today. And with that, we close this program. And it is not goodbye, but it is see you in the future. This is Marco Polo, your moderator for this event, signing off. Thank you. Salamat.